against you. Uh, I never thought I'd be saying that to people as many times the cop said it to me. But that was way in my past, though. No, not too far.
And well, that was in jest, so to speak.
Not really.
Right.
For me, not for you. For you, it was in jest. Here, let me tag you while we allow a little bit of time for people to come in. It's already hooking up. Let me tag you and it'll show up on your page.
And I have a couple hours too, so if you, it's
Oh,
totally up
cool.
to you.
That's yeah.
However,
This is my last show of the day, and so I'm totally like up for that. Most of them, the shows, as I've gotten back into this, because I don't know if you know, but so in mid 2023, after 7 years of 4,000 shows, I pulled back the reins and I had to because I was burning out. I burned out at the end of December. I did the last Soulogy Fest I did was in December of 2023, and I kind of cut down in the summer because I was producing about 25 people and their shows every week. And and so in 23, I'm sorry, in 24, like for about a year and a half, 2 years, I was doing, instead of 65 or 70 shows a month, I was doing like 10 to 15, you know? So I really slowed down. So now I'm picking it back up again. Like we've got two today, two yesterday, three tomorrow, three Friday. So yeah, I'm just letting my soul guide. But um, God, I forgot why I was saying that.
so
Okay.
when our souls were sort of knocking on one another's door, we were literally thinking about one another last week.
Yeah, and even before that, as I started to get into it, I thought, I don't want to do the same thing. I want to take the conversations to another level, like not say another level, 'cause that sounds hierarchical, but I meant like talk about let's go deeper into the vulnerability, into the authenticity, and ultimately transparency. And so even like the exchange we scheduled a couple, and then you had some things going on, and healing, peace, love, and comfort to you and your family and all that you're going through.
Thank you.
Um, and so it was very human to me. I thought, yeah. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, no, it's good. We're going to meet at the right time. And you look fantastic. And one of the great things
Thank you.
about getting back into this is now doing shows with people that I've worked with in the past. And just like I'm looking at you now and Vivian on the show before, oh my God, you can see the transformation in people. But let me just formally say to Jeannie, welcome back to Soulogy. Thank you for coming in and sharing sacred space with us and honoring us with your presence and your openness and your spirit and your energy. It's always great to sit down with you. You're one of my favorite people to have on. And I'm really happy to be here and looking forward to the next hour and a half or 2 hours. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Todd. You have some incredible people on, and I was catching as much of Vivian Moon's conversation as I could. And during that conversation toward the end, you said people should go back and watch Gareth. And so I was trying to catch up so I could see sort of what was on your mind the last
Yeah.
couple of days. And so,
I
maybe
think
we'll hit on
with
other
your
things.
background, well, just with your life experience, you definitely need to watch Gareth because he's like your cousin or maybe brother or something. I don't know, but you had mentioned a couple of things on the messages that you might want to talk about. I know one had to do with your lineage, galactic lineage. Is that right?
Mhm.
And I forget what the other one was, but what do you want to start with the galactic lineage? Do you want to or whatever what are you feeling? What are you feeling?
Well, I really want to say firstly that what compelled me, even though I was sort of thinking of you as a person, as a friend, but what compelled me to ask you if we could do this again is I had a friend commit suicide last month.
Wow.
And because I work with people, I see the struggles that people are going through on their journey. And it made me reflect that since 2023, I also pulled back. And of course, you did a lot of work. I did a lot. I probably might have had more work to do than you. And I did a lot of work. And I felt that I wanted to share because I wanted to honor my galactic heritage and
Mm.
why I'm even alive. What guidance compelled me forward on my journey, and that sort of flavor, and how I was specifically taught, not because necessarily it was my personal passion or my personal strength, but my soul lineages
Mm.
passion and strength. And I thought, I'm getting up there and people are passing away for different reasons. And I thought, I want to take the opportunity, in case I never get the opportunity again, to speak about some of these things that affected me so profoundly. And then how is it that all of those experiences and guidance and soul teaching and learning could possibly help somebody who's watching today or in the future who's maybe struggling a little bit.
Wow, that's sounds perfect to me. So I'm all ears because I've known you for quite some time, and we've had a few shows, and I don't recall in in specifics and in depth your galactic, but obviously I know you're very multi-dimensionally connected. So yeah, I'm all ears. Let's do this.
Well, we never talked about it, and I never asked. I was busy doing my journey, doing Ginny, and I never asked. But after another profound near-death experience in March 2023, with one of my horses ran me over. And
We talked after that. I think we did a show after that, like in the summer. You were probably one of the last shows I might have, when I was doing a lot. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was crazy. That was a crazy story.
yeah, and because of it, and I'm sure you've heard this before, I think it propelled me into a deeper level physically, my nervous system of sort of cracking me open and allowing me to heal so that I could accept more light, more of my soul.
Mm.
And as I say that word soul, I want to just digress for a moment and say something that I wanted to say to you, and I wasn't sure how to fit it in, so why not just fit stuff in? One of the things, when I think I first reached out to you, or I think you might have found out about me doing somebody else's podcast and you contacted me, whatever it was, however we met, what always, in the most appropriate way, attracted me to your energy, to your message, to your purpose, to your wow, huge life, was that you focused on the soul and you believed that we have a soul, and you talk about the soul every day. And there are many who don't, and we won't go there, but I have always felt strongly that I have a soul, and that is something that has been a guiding force for me. And I just wanted to share that with you, how profound. Just when I think it was you reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to be on the show?" And I'm like, "A show called Soulogy?" Yes. Like, I don't know what to do, but yes.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those that have never heard about me before, I've been interviewed maybe, I don't know, 50 somewhere, 60, 70 times or something like that. And I always talk about the same thing, my near-death experience in 2012 and how it led me on a journey of self-awareness. And it's pretty much all I've ever talked about, is all the different nuances to self-awareness that I was made aware of on my journey. And in 2023, like as we just discussed, my horse very uncharacteristically, from a standstill right in front of me, exploded over top of me, and I fell, all 150 pounds of me, flat on my back, on my nervous system. And in that event, I know that I experienced being dematerialized when my horse was running over where my body should have been, or should I say, running through me. And then when my horse passed where my physical body was, I came back. And I remember the thing that made you chuckle was when I came back, I was sort of traveling across the ground and the fence stopped me. My fence and the fence was saying, "Oh, I don't want to hurt you. You're such a nice person. Oh, no, no. Oh." The fence was like, "Oh, darn." And the fence stopped me. And then for days I was tasting metal in my mouth and I couldn't figure out, what's going on. And when I rematerialized was right when I hit the fence. So the consciousness of the fence merged with basically my brain as I rematerialized. And so that was an interesting experience of going out and putting my hands on the fence and being in conversation with the earth and returning to the fence what belonged to the fence and sending gratitude to the fence and witnessing the fence because I could hear the fence. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you." I'm like, "Hey, you were just sitting there." I know I'm the one that ran into you, right?
Mhm.
But after that, it quickly became for months, for a year. To be fair, about a year to heal from that shock, that absolute shock of just landing flat on my back. And it there was a series of what I can only call, and forgive the language if it's rudimentary, like a series of nervous system upgrades. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense based based on talking to people for the last year and a half, in particular, and in my own life, the last year and a half. Like the nervous system seems to be coming on really loud. So a lot of the transformation now to me is anchored in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So in hindsight, my sort of self perspective is, well, from 2012 to 2023, I did a really good job of healing a bunch of stuff, and I was kind of stuck, and I needed to get unstuck. And that's how it happened, was a huge shock, which in searching for answers and healing for that event, a whole other level of healing my own self, my own personal embodied self in this life became available that was not available before. And after that, shortly after that, is when it was revealed to me why I came to Earth and that I was a part of a family from the constellation of Andromeda, the solar system that humans designated Beta Andromeda. I forget the human name for it. I think it's Mirok, and it's the third planet from the sun called Archeem. And well, that's the language that I've been given. It's not a human designation, but and so a soul that was incarnate there split herself in two and sent a part of herself to Earth to incarnate because according to her, the story is, many of the beings that exist in the fifth dimension very, very much would like to evolve beyond the fifth dimension, to evolve beyond time itself. But many of them had aspects that were incarnate on Earth, and they weren't sure what was going on with them. They really weren't sure, and they weren't sure why so many souls were coming here and not leaving. And so a huge group of planets got together called the Andromedan Council. And
Hmm.
the only other person I've heard talk about this is Alex Collier,
Hmm.
which he's a friend of mine, and we've done
Yeah.
interviews
I'm
together.
very familiar with his work, going way back. Yeah, he even
Yeah,
goes back to like the 90s. Yeah.
90s. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they got together. My understanding is within this council and their colleagues, which extend to worlds beyond their council. There were about 50 million souls that were sent here. So I'm just one of 50 million. Not like six that came from this planet or something, like 50 million. I don't know where they're all from or how many. I don't ask those kinds of questions, and I don't really channel information, and I don't really consider myself a whistleblower. It's more, here's my experience. Does it help anybody else? Because I was a real regular person, as you say, human.
Uh, well, let me just backtrack a little bit because I know your story, and we don't have to go back to it. If anybody wants to watch it, I think Facebook's taken off a lot of the old videos, but you can go to YouTube, put her name in there, Soul Speaks 5D. But if you listen to the story, it's an extraordinary story. She just touched on a little bit of it, the 2012, 2013, up to this point of 2023. So I think that's kind of an understatement. So I'm actually still taking in that this information came to you with this second near death.
Hmm.
So that really speaks a lot. And for two reasons. One, because I know you, and two, because since about mid 23 up until like maybe even just recently, like till May, people have been in isolation, they've been in solitude, they've been in healing, they've had it by force or by flow. Something's been going on like prepping us. So I'm really excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, I have full body chills as you say that. And in fact, I just got a little bit dizzy, so I feel maybe more than my own soul present here right now, but I'm not going to stop and ask. But I think it feels very positive.
Mm.
I know it does. I will just say that I actually have had six near deaths. So one when I at birth, I was a forceps birth, and then one at 3 months, I had whooping cough or what's called bordetella. It's
Yeah.
generally speaking, it's a dog disease. And then twice in the 90s, I had an experience where I had an accident, once on a motorcycle and once in a car, where I died in one timeline and I lived in the other, but I experienced both timelines as they were happening.
Wow.
So I've got some interesting stuff if you ever need space to fill, but I never did anything with that in the 90s. You would think I would go get a self-help book or go to a spiritual bookstore or something, and I never did. I mean, I was a tough nut to crack, and that's why I had to have that 2012 experience, you know. And that's why I want to talk to you about this today because
Mm.
I'm shocked at how much patience if I kind of refer to her as my higher self, because she's like the other half of me, not the way people describe oversoul or monad but the part of me that sent me here. And I always knew, and I would have told you this, that in 2012, more of me came in. Like some people would say a walk-in, but not a different soul or a different soul lineage, just more of me. And it was her. And so that's what I really wanted to talk about is I found out who was guiding me. Like most other people, I just had this sort of nebulous, I guess I have a higher self, or I guess, I have an oversoul. And I had a lot of psychic experiences in this reality, multi-dimensional experiences. Like if I touch people's body, I see their subconscious mind or the trauma in their nervous system in black and white. Like if you have a black and white dream, it's usually your subconscious is talking to you. But if I stood in a person's energy field, and let's say the person just earlier that day mentioned, oh, I happen to be, allergic to lavender. This really happened to me. There was a woman who somebody had lavender essential oil, and this woman across the way, she had this horrified look on her face. She didn't want to say anything because she was being, kind and polite, but she was horrified that somebody was using lavender essential oil. And I didn't say anything, but I just knew, okay, this woman is allergic to lavender. Well, later in the day, I was standing next to her. And when I stand it, which is why I don't do body work or stand close to people anymore, I was standing in her energy field and I saw her life of the death of a child. A son had died, and she was preparing the body and anointing the body with lavender as she was wailing, violently wailing and inhaling all of this lavender. So I just suggested, maybe one day you could look into if your lavender allergy has anything to do with a past life, and she goes, "Oh yeah, I should do that." Because I couldn't just come out and say I just saw your past life. And that's one of the things that's been difficult for me to deal with is the immediate, I don't want to label them, but the best way to explain it is the immediate psychic abilities of the fifth dimensional soul that came in 2012.
Mm,
And so that's what I had to deal with the whole time. And so that's why, I went to study all of these different things, and my soul was right there saying, yeah, but that's not the whole story, or that's not what that person needs, or maybe there isn't a lot of truth in this, or, just kept me pursuing the information that would really be helpful for me.
mm.
It was after 2023 when I was really shown, okay, this is why you're here and this is where you're from. And this is what happened on the planet that you were from. And on that planet, there were some visitors, and they wanted to encourage them to start worshiping science and, quantum physics and exploring the quantum field and going on a path away from alignment with the soul and the heart. And some of the people on that planet did that. And it took several centuries, several hundred years to overcome that influence of a couple of generations by this other information coming to the planet. And because of that, this Andromedan Council, this collective of planets and higher dimensional beings who do not toil with artificial intelligence, who do not toil with technological intelligence, who are purists. And I probably have told you in the past, boy, I'm a purist because my soul doesn't even let me use tuning forks. You know what I mean? And my soul said, my soul within me, my essence, my light can generate any frequency necessary. I don't need a
Mm-hmm.
gadget
Mm-hmm.
or, anything.
Yeah, you are the med bed and everything else, right? I just want to make sure I understand this. Andromeda as I recall, Andromeda is the closest galaxy to the Milky Way galaxy. I know that. And you're saying that Andromeda, that you're actually going deeper than that. You're actually the third planet from the sun in that particular, in a part of that galaxy or in a solar system within that galaxy. Is that what it is?
There is a solar system in this galaxy, pardon me, a constellation in the Milky Way galaxy called the Andromeda constellation.
Right. But
So
there's an Andromeda galaxy though, isn't
there
there?
is, and I am not familiar with the Andromedan galaxy.
Okay, so this, oh, wait a minute. Let me get this right. So you're saying this comes from that constellation or from,
Yes.
okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
My soul refers to all of this, the constellations, not with the human word constellation, but star cluster,
Mm,
cluster of stars. And so the human designation, it's a human name. It's not the name they choose. They don't choose the name Andromedan, but it's the name that we have given to them.
okay.
Yeah. Or to that geographical location in time and space.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty powerful. And I had a couple of flashbacks. Now that I didn't know that about the cluster, the star cluster constellation, I didn't know but now it makes sense. A couple of things, a couple of people I met, and one of them, it was actually there was a like a session, and they were taken there. And now I realize it wasn't the galaxy, it was that star cluster. And then the other thing that I've never understood, and I think I'm going to gain some insight here, is I've had this, the first thing I ever noticed in the sky without even knowing what the hell it was Sirius. Like like way back in the original studio before I hit the road with the suitcase, in 2016. But the second one was a was a planet or a star called Aldebaran. and it keeps coming back and it keeps coming back. I have visions of it, and on the 30th of May, which was 14 years to the day of my awakening experience, it came. I stepped out in the backyard in this courtyard, and there it was. And I basically heard some shit's about to go down. Get ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that when you're talking about you're saying this 50 million is comprised of many different planetaries or many different celestial beings are represented, right?
Yes. Because some of what has happened in the history of Earth, and unlike some people that you interview, my soul family doesn't dismiss the story or the history.
Mm.
My soul family looks at the history and sees where technology has been utilized to manipulate time, to travel back in time and alter events. They discovered that is why souls were not graduating from Earth.
Mm.
And so they tend not to be stuck on labels or blame or anything, but to try to understand so that these types of anti life, anti soul choices are not perpetuated again.
Yeah,
Because
that's
there's a,
yeah. I mean, that's totally resonates with me. Like my understanding, and I can't even tell you how far this goes back. Maybe a handful of years. But I always understood that that's what this was. It was like a spy versus spy. Somebody went back in time, altered something, and then the other went back to bring it back, and it just got out of control. And again, you should go watch that show from yesterday because he speaks to this. There's not a coincidence that you guys are back to back.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So when I was sent here, when part of my Archemian, the planet is called Archemian.
Archemian.
That's their name for it. It is not a human designation. And I was told to spell it Archim,
A
Archeme. When
C
I was
H.
sent here, I was sent here together with 250 million souls, 50 galactic souls,
Uh,
and 50 million, and 200 million from future Earth, where what happened on the future Earth, souls and genetic lineages and souls were just disappearing. And people were like, it was a reverse Mandela effect. It wasn't good. Souls and genetic lineages were disappearing, and tyranny was appearing in the higher dimensions, and artificial intelligence was becoming prevalent in the higher dimensions. And so they reached out to their, let's say, creator level beings who were their soul family that humans now call Patal. And it's a name, it's a term from the Orions, from the reptilians use that name. It's the name we get. And I keep asking, shouldn't I have the actual name? Shouldn't I have it? And it's like, it's too confusing. There's too many stories out right now. Just go with the language that people recognize, because even in metaphysics, so many terms are used in such diametrically opposed ways that it's too confusing. So what happened was on future Earth, literally entire soul groups and genetic lineages were just disappearing on an evolved, ascended, fifth dimensional Earth. And when the Patal went asking for volunteers from other constellations and even other galaxies, of which I don't have any information, but I understand other galaxies as well. That's when I remember as a soul, before I was even an Andromedan, going and being shown what happened and then being shown holographically the past. And I was told, now you're not going to remember this, but this is what happened. Other beings came, other beings who do not honor, who are taking duality to an extreme of polarity and injecting judgment, which is not just a distortion of contrast. It's a choice. It's a choice that allows to anchor in all the religion and metaphysics and all of that. And the judgment took such strong hold that they were then able to trick people into aligning not with their true creator, but aligning with these different beings pretending to be creator, pretending to
Mm,
be benevolent.
mm.
So 200 million souls from future Earth, and I've had several clients, including one of my daughters, who is one of these souls, came here. And, it's hard to overgeneralize. They don't all have exactly the same purpose, but generally speaking, the 200 million from future Earth, they are really being the light, anchoring the light, in various different ways. And they always wonder, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? And I always tell them, you are here. You are the light. You're being the light. Your purpose is so profound, you have no idea. And then the 50 million are souls from other galaxies, but throughout this galaxy, I would say probably is a greater number of us. And those are souls who are meant to be galactic envoys or emissaries, or who are traveling at night on ships or having experiences or bringing through information that's extraordinary. That is extraordinary. And a lot of people who feel it's just so wrong, I don't believe here, are these galactic souls. I would say, of course, some from future Earth, of course, but the ones who are so profoundly disturbed at being here are the some of the 50 million galactic souls.
Yeah. And that sentiment comes through in so many of these shows over the last 7 or 8 years. That's that same, it's never the same story, but you get the feel for like what the hell is going on here. I want to ask you, and please keep going. And again, I'm reflecting to the conversation I had with Gareth yesterday because he was talking about how his was a little more localized, and his was the Arcturians, so it was a little more localized in the neighborhood. And he was talking about how there was this group of entities um, that were going that for I think he said I want to say something like 2 billion years were going from planet to planet and basically imprinting what you're talking about. Basically imprinting the judgment, imprinting the tech, and so on. Do you feel that Earth is like, if not literally, but like metaphorically, like ground zero, like where everything is like at the certain, in other words, this is the like the shootout at OK Corral, like this is where, you know, it's happening to affect all of our timelines, dimensions, and all the aspects and extensions of us. Do you feel like that is possible?
Me personally, my response is I do feel that that is true. And then the information I get at the soul level is that 50 million galactic beings from other constellations and other galaxies would not have come here
Mm.
intentionally
Yeah,
and come back into a low dense reality were that not true.
yeah.
But everybody has to have their own truth, and there are so
No,
many.
I think that explanation totally, because I'm trying to verbalize it in my head, and oh, did you say that right? And you just said it, and that's how I feel. Like I know that many of us, and many of the people that we know, have descended,
Yes,
quite frankly, and in that dissension is this other opportunity in the mission to transform, alchemize, or whatever, reverse or whatever. It ends up being like a setback becomes a comeback kind of thing.
yes, because there is no other possible future than the freedom and liberation of all souls.
Yeah.
However, for about 2 billion years, and that's about the number I was given, that 2
Really?
billion years ago is when judgment was anchored, and about 600 million years to 50 million years, some beings traveled from planet to planet, installing technological portals so there could be travel from planet to planet, following our understanding of nuclear wars for the past billion years that tore holes in the fabric of space time where realities were not meant to interact with one another. We were not meant to flow freely through from reality to reality. Some people that teach out of body traveling, or if you read Robert Monroe's work, or you follow this lovely young man who's talking now a lot about out of body traveling, Darius J. Wright, he says that every planet is its own construct, or what some people would call universe, and that they're all closed systems. Well, his information is not exactly correct because they were meant to be closed systems, but the nuclear wars tore holes in the fabric of space-time. So now there were beings 2 billion years ago who started this process. And these are not beings, Todd, who just chose to experience contrast. Service to self, these are very old thought forms, service to self, service to others, or what have you. I mean, these are like sort of Gnostic concepts or original sort of archetypal Gnostic archetypal patterns that are being played out, and which, by the way, about a year and a few months ago, or year and a half or whatever ago, probably last time I watched your show, you were sitting in a very lush lawn, sitting at a little iron garden table with a woman under the shade of a beautiful tree. I don't know where you were, and she was talking about archetypes and how she was seeing archetypes play out all around her. And according to my soul family, the archetypes are one of the instruments of control,
Hmm.
because when we agree at the soul level to be at the effect of these archetypes, nobody ever teaches you on earth. I've never heard anybody say, even the people that talk about them and teach about them, that you can never get out. And you were just talking with, was it Vivian or Gareth? I don't remember which. You were talking about Joseph Campbell and how you enjoyed his interviews that are now on Audible, which I listened to also 10 years ago, the same as you. And
Well, that's profound, Jenny, because it reminds me of the adage. I get what you're saying because the adage of, what got me here may not be what's going to take me to the next level. So there's a lot of that stuff that we're letting go that was important. It was important for us to get that information, and then the journeys would say the last 12, 14 years. But now it's a different place now. And what I see coming through you is the memory that's going to further bring us into alignment, because if you're bringing it in, then others are going to be bringing it in, and it's going to become as commonplace as what we used to look at our past of this life. You know what I mean? Like, it is important. I see what you're saying, because in the universe, there's always that space where you don't know. Like, I'm going to, and so this also follows many of, well, not many, but we heard the narrative a lot in 2012, 13, 14, 15, the clarion call. We came. And so I feel like this galactic memory lineage is going to be not just empowering, but it's going to be, well, it's almost like the truth frequency. You know what I mean? It's like this is the truth, and everyone's going to know it, and everybody's going to be exposed, I guess.
and you asked me, did I feel that Earth is ground zero? And I wanted to explain my answer.
Mm.
My understanding is it was this very, very dense, dense level of consciousness that is disconnected from its heart, disconnected from its connection to Creator Source. This is not what we are not talking about, right and wrong and good and bad and contrast. We're not talking about that. We are talking about energies or a soul lineage or two that will seek to destroy another, that would seek to utilize the power of creation of another because they are disconnected, so they don't have the power of creation. So they
Exactly.
trick others into creating for them.
Mm.
So my understanding is this had to be the place where
Wow.
we held the intention for this to come to an end, for there to be resolution and reconciliation, absolutely forgiveness and understanding. And a lot of that stuff is, way above my pay grade. I can't really speak to it or, how that resolution takes place. But I am here intending, may all souls be free.
Yeah.
May all souls be free to remember the truth of who they are. And may all souls be free to choose their evolutionary path in
Yeah.
full conscious awareness. Not saying, here's your choices, one, two, and three. And
Right.
that's all you have to choose from. When we have 1,000 or more choices,
Right.
truly, if we only had more information.
Did you, I mean, I just want to point out everybody what she just said. Okay. Um, because she's speaking about this galactic history and lineage and the pattern of it, the evolution of it or de-evolution and resurrection of it, whatever. But what you just said, if you think about us on the ground, boots on the ground, the human to human interactions, we know like the archonic would be another way to put it, the archonic influence. They can't create because they are disconnected. So what do? They create through us by tricking us or by presenting something that we start to believe. So if you look at the basic human element of this paradigm that we're transforming out of, it's a narcissistic paradigm. It is the same energy of these uh, entities or whatever, these soul entities or lineages that were taking power and destroying. And we're doing it at a human level. And to me, back to the ground zero thing, like that's tough work. Like it makes me go, wait a minute. So if I take the blame off of this person or the system or whatever, and bring that into equilibrium within myself, it's actually having universal, right?
Implications.
Yeah. Wow. That's the I think maybe yeah, the dots are connecting. Wow. Thank you.
Yeah. Some people are more technically, and one could say intellectually or consciously aware of the steps that are being taken to reclaim our sovereignty. Let's say following the breadcrumbs back, if every breadcrumb represents every time I gave away my power, every time I gave away my sovereignty, every time I aligned with a false god or a goddess, every right, every time I was tricked into, doing something that maybe my soul wouldn't have chosen. And I wasn't really here in the beginning anyway. I didn't come until after the problem started. But all of us, once we got here, we all forgot. You know, I don't know anybody that's been absolutely not touched by any um, difficulty or confusion. Um, and so some people are more consciously choosing. Like I work with people who are revoking agreements to live in a reality managed by fear, the construct of fear. I'm working with people who are consciously choosing to dissolve the barriers that the Hindus talk about, all the barriers or the veils in every chakra or what have you, right? Um, People who are revoking their experience agreement to experience judgment, and then judgment led to polarity, and polarity led to religion, and religion led to good and evil, and my God is better than your God is, you're bad, and you see it in all metaphysics and playing out with just the nicest, sweetest people who,
Mm,
are
mm,
just so competitive or what
mm,
have you. It's playing out everywhere. It's
mm,
controlling all of us. And like you said, and I had never heard it the way you put it, you said that Gareth said that there were some beings that came 2 billion years ago. And that's the number I got. When the decision was made, here's the way I was told, and I can find it in my notes. I don't have a lot of notes, but I know this is in my notes. That 2 billion years ago, there was a choice made, not by all of us, okay, but by the souls that wanted to experiment more with the concept of not having free will or giving away your free will. And that energy is the dense, dense, dense energy that we're all bumping up against and that we're seeing transmute before our eyes. And
Let me
then
t
some people like, pardon me.
No, no, no. I just wanted to take a breath because this is a lot. I mean, even no, this is great. So I just want to make sure I've got this right. You had this second near death, and then your guides, your team gives you this information. And this is what you were explaining to us, right? This is all coming from the connection, the communion you have, or well, let's just say this: more of you dropped in, and you're getting more of it. Is it? And keep going, please. Is it still evolving? Are you still
Yeah.
getting? Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, and my abilities are evolving, but I don't necessarily think any differently than others who are on a similar type journey to us. I mean, yes, immediately I was very different to myself, but I don't know if I was very different to lots of other people who had extraordinary psychic ability. You know, there's a lot of people who have fifth dimensional psychic awareness. For me, the information, I would not say, Todd, that I am some sort of a galactic whistleblower or that I intend to be a disclosure witness or that I am accumulating vast, volumes of information about the past or our history. I wouldn't say that's true for me, but I am given enough information for me to witness in order to hold space for the clients that I have that were here prior or who are galactic souls from planets or constellations that I never incarnated in or planets that I ever never incarnated on. And so I need to be able to speak every other person's language. It can't be what Ginny knows. It has to be what does that person's soul need that person to hear. And different information, different stories, different fears, different choices apply to each individual person. And so maybe I'm given a little bit of information on an ongoing basis, but it's purposeful. It's
Right.
there's a reason. It's not as if I sit around every day just sort of, channeling information about the
Mhm.
past. I don't.
It sounds like you're getting enough. It sounds like you're getting the information you need to facilitate each interaction that you have, and so even at like an unspoken level, so to speak, it's not so much in the retelling. It's what you know what the fit is with a
Mhm.
client, and every time you active or every time you, I guess, merge or have a session with that client, knowing that they're one of these beings, then there is an exponential growth within that soul, and obviously an awareness
A
at a
remembering,
conscious level. Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
a
that's it.
remembering.
Yeah.
Um, because the information comes and it's not just a sentence. It's a movie, an emotion, and what was the impetus behind it, what created it, what was the origin of it. And oftentimes the person, let's say they're from another star system, they're healing their lineage by making choices now.
Right.
And by hearing, and I'm going to do this in quotes because everybody's truth is different, but by hearing a truth for them today that they needed to hear
Yeah. Yeah.
to help release a burden
Mm.
or to help release the original fear of just incarnating on earth
Mm.
that people are having. So when I get a client that's one of these 50 million galactic souls, the goal of that person that is in front of me, that soul, mostly that soul almost doesn't have a lot of concern about what's going on with us in this life. It's more, where is that person's soul going to go when they pass away?
Mm.
What are the blocks and limitations? What's the resistance and what are the blocks and limitations to remembering the truth of who they are, to go into their heart, to align with their soul and to tap into that frequency
Mm.
that resonates at the frequency where they came from. So
And is it, and I think if I heard you right, it's some connection to where they're going to go.
when they pass away,
Right. And
to go back.
it's crazy the way the sequence of things are happening, the synchronicity. I call them physical synchronicities in 2025. But if I just go back 4 days, I gather a lot of material for Soulogy every day to put in the group, right? Like a couple hundred posts, right? And so I'm exposed to a lot of things on the different platforms that I look at. Have you heard of and so I have Gareth and I have you, and then before Gareth there was this other lady with a fascinating, and they're all kind of connected. You can see the connection, right? The two of you most of all. But have you heard of a guy named Joe McDonegal, right? He was the first remote viewer that went, okay. It really kind of, if you ever watch him, you can tell he's just a straight up humble guy. I got this clip a couple of days ago, and the question to him was, and it's relevant to what you're saying. Uh, what do you think about death? I'm not afraid to die. I've seen a lot of stuff. He said, this is what I think it is. It's we're actually being prepared through the experience for the next one.
Mhm.
And I thought, wow, that makes sense. And you just kind of said that, you know, like you said, they're not in that thing. They're not concerned about this so much, but like where they're going to go from here, right? That makes a lot of sense. And then the other thing that I think should be restated is, and I'm saying to repeat, is like when I was talking to Gareth, I keep forgetting his name, yesterday. I said to him, so what you're saying basically is, I mean, it could come down to this. Like, say it's me and you, and say we have a long history and some, like any connection, you have ups and you have downs. And at some point we click that the repercussions of that might affect the Anunnaki Pleiadian rift or the Orion Lyran rift, like to that depth. That's the kind of universal correction that's taking place through our conscious efforts as humans, which is wild, which sounds kind of difficult, but not when the connections are being made with people like you, which must be a sign of what's coming for everybody, because it sure looks that way. Because every time I turn around, more and more people are going, hey, you're not crazy. Like you people aren't crazy anymore. Tell me what's going on. So thank you again.
Well, two things. One, when I have ever asked my soul, and this was long before I met you,
Mm,
why am I doing all of this healing? People say it's this or that, or they call it this or that. I said, what is it because I'm going to evolve, or is it because I'm gonna die? And my soul said both.
yeah, yeah.
My soul, that's my soul's answer every time I ask, is this about evolution or is this about where I go? Both. And then I wanted to say, and again, I do not consider myself a whistleblower or a galactic historian or a disclosure witness or anything, but if I may comment on something you said earlier that's probably very personal to you, and I'm not trying to step on your soul experience or your soulology. I'm not trying to step on your
I'm
soulology.
I'm getting a huge tone right now. So whatever you're doing is the truth.
Yeah. I would like to say, um, on behalf of the Aldebarans, that yes, it is true that the Aldebarans are the ones who have used the technology to manipulate time. And if you know about their story or history from, for example, Alex Collier or someone like that, and his information is the information that resonates and aligns most closely with anything my soul ever told me. Now, I'm not talking about current events and if there's going to be an RV or anything like that. And he does talk about a lot of that, and I don't know about any of that kind of stuff. But if you ever watch anything that Alex has ever done, if you can please just disregard all of the predictions of what's going to happen next Thursday, and just listen to the Andromedan perspective of what happened in this galaxy, you might hear some stories about the Aldebarans and how they were a rogue Pleiadian planet or community who have done some extraordinarily unsavory things, and that is true.
I
However,
believe you. I believe you. And
however,
go ahead.
Todd, ask yourself, ask your soul, ask your heart, was there an influence, a multidimensional influence that was at work through these beings and utilizing them? I am not here, I am not a spokesman for the Aldebarans, but for whatever
Mm,
reason, I felt this golden finger on my lower
mm,
lip,
mm,
and it just said, keep going, keep talking. What you
mm,
want to say, just say it. And it was like my soul just touched me on my mouth.
mm,
And because not all Aldebarans should be, number one, painted with the same brush
mm.
or are responsible for all the things that have been done in their name. And I would like to tell you a story. I have,
I want you to tell me this story. I just want to interject something, and I don't know what it means. Um, tell you some things just popped up. I remember being in high school and and I've always had really intense, lucid dreams with recall. And I was, uh, there was two of us, and I believe I was a boy. There was a girl. We were in Nazi Germany, and we were being herded at the train station. And that was the first time I ever felt that frequency. And then when I started to see this planet, and it was as if I was, uh, I guess you would say, like in the resistance, something like that. Like I was put there as a plan, you know what I mean? Like as a counter, but that there were others there. So, you know, I just think that's weird that that popped in my head, and I remember a lucid dream from 45 years ago. But go ahead, I want to hear the story.
full body chills, to be the light so that when the souls were passing and when
Mhm.
the horror was going on and people forgot who they were and they didn't remember, and your light would embrace.
Well, the group that I was involved with, and this came in 2011. I can't believe this is happening. Um, I'm on the planet. It's in a remote area like an Arizona or a Grand Canyon. And there's a bunch of us there. And they're all men, by the way. And all of them, we were like priest, I want to say, like yeah, like priest, what we might call here on earth prophets, or I don't want to say preachers or pastors, but they were holy men. And we were segregated in this area in secrecy. I remember it very clearly. It was red rock, there was an alcove, and I would have these things, and it would be like we were all standing in this, and it was almost like, okay, this is the final meeting. Now everybody go do what you got to do, kind of thing. Thank you for reminding me and let me say that. Thank you. Keep going, please.
Well, I'm looking at my screen, which is fairly large, and then there's a little window with us in it. And around the window with us is my symbol for yes, which is a golden circle.
Mm,
So if I'm just visualizing a yes or no from my soul, yes is perfect golden ring, and no is like the no smoking red, a
mm.
red sign. And so I'm meant to continue to give a little bit more information. And this might upset a few people, but if you heard what I just said and you truly hear me speak through my heart, you shouldn't be too upset. But the Aldebarans are those Nordic looking, Pleiadian looking beings who worked with the Nazis, who brought the Aryan consciousness, one of the groups
Mm.
who brought the Aryan consciousness here. So your remembrance when you were in high school about the Nazis, that's the energy, the Aldebaran energy, and that's why you just had the flashback. And
Mm,
again, to say it's Aldebaran energy is unfair to
mm.
the planet of Aldebaran, and it's unfair to all of the beings. So I want to go two ways with this. One is to say, on the planet, they were known as Giza intelligence, playing both sides of the fence, and they are known and work in inner earth as the Ashtar command.
Jesus Christ, Jenny, are you serious with this? I mean, uh, so none of this stuff is a mistake. So one, I just have to input this just so the information can be on the table. So when I reawoke, oh my God. Okay, so when I reawoke, I had these constant visions of me coming up from inner earth through all these tunnels. Like it was just like fast motion, boom, boom, boom. And it's went on for weeks. And so I've always had this like that. I don't know. I wouldn't say that's where I'm from, but I'm saying that I was here
Mhm.
from the beginning, like from the goo is what I used to, the way it was shown to me, the pink goo, like before it became. And so I don't know what that last part you said was, but it really rang true. Oh, the ash tart thing.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know if I associate because of the connotations that the various connotations that you have with certain words, especially like in these circles over
Yeah.
the last 12 years, but the energy of it and the color of it. See, the
Mhm.
color of it is a silvery white with blue,
Mhm.
and I can see it as sure as I'm sitting here. But anyway, thank you again for bringing some memories back. Please continue.
So I don't know what is going on today with that group or whether they're being reformed or whether they're making different choices. That I am not intending to disparage them, but in the past and in our last century, they were not on the side of light. Okay. Um, the second story I want to tell, which this is a story, this is an experience I had with a client and a soul from Aldebaran. So I had a client 3 or 4 years ago. She had an animal or something, and I did an animal communication session. And then she had another session with me a few months ago, maybe this spring. And she says, I don't know if you remember me or not. And I'm, maybe. She said, well, I have this cat, and I've had 3 or 4 animal communicators talk to this cat, and the veterinarians try to help me with the cat, and I just don't understand what's going on. And the cat is diagnosed with some bronchial or respiratory illness, but nothing makes it better, and the cat is always coughing. And and right away, I didn't even open the space or anything. And I'm like, but I know what it is. I said, let's open the space, let's shine light of truth on it, and let's have your cat tell you a story. And I have the notes. I mean, I keep sparse, but I do keep notes. Just sometimes I get 3 pieces of information I want to remember. And so I will keep sparse notes, and I could find it exactly what the cat said. But the cat said to me, I'm in Aldebaran, and the grief I have experienced with the unnecessary death of my people is so shocking and overwhelming to me. And it's so unnecessary, these wars and this death. And from the time the cat spoke that, the cat didn't cough ever again. So the cat, who was not a collective consciousness cat soul, who was a galactic soul, who had come to be with his soul family, the woman, to say, I'm in Aldebaran and the grief is overwhelming. The amount of death and destruction I have witnessed of my family is overwhelming. And it made it very clear to me I am not one of the rogue, but they are my family and I love them. and there are so many dying. So you hear about the Black League and the Galactic Wars, and who am I to say what's necessary or unnecessary or, I mean, I don't like seeing anybody get hurt just like the next person. The whole galactic story is more, I can't wrap my mind around all of it. It's 21 trillion years old, the story of this place. Um, but here's a soul face to face, soul face to inner eye with me. And what can I do but say, let's do some healing work. Let's do some forgiveness work. Let's say I forgive everyone for everything unconditionally, no matter what, including myself. Love is the answer, you know, over and over and over and over again. And to ask the soul family to witness, and for the woman that the cat was the cat was carrying and expressing that grief so that the woman wouldn't have to, because she had to go to work 5 days a week. And that is happening a lot. There's so many different things we could talk about, obviously. But I thought that it would be nice to share the message of the cat who was expressing grief through its lungs and the constant coughing, basically choking on the grief, choking on
Mhm.
the blame and the shame as well.
Wow.
So.
Wow, that's profound. It's profound for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is because I've, I guess I see Earth as the most unique place and universally seeded, basically. Um, and so because of the inversion of it, the duality, the dualistic polarity, the distortion, I I guess I thought until this moment I wasn't open to that shame, blame, fear, control, manipulation, deception, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, originated here. It didn't.
Oh
Like
no.
when I'm listening to him yesterday, he said they would go from planet to planet.
Hmm.
And I don't remember the exact, like you were talking about your notes, but very much like what you said a minute ago, almost like a cookie cutter. The technology was made to where it could be a cookie cutter. I remember saying that to him. Oh, you mean like a cookie cutter? So that from planet to planet to planet to planet to planet. And honestly, even though it's coming from Arcturian guides, he actually his first meeting was, and they physically materialized to him, right? Its story is fascinating. Covers many years and other people as well. But the Arcturians were joined by an Aboriginal elder, and the Aboriginal elder was representing the consciousness of all the Aboriginals, right? And that was the original, I guess, human that was seated here, something to that effect. Others were brought in, da 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 da. But very much the story was very much the same. But I hadn't thought about, I think of everything outside of the sphere of Earth. I always looked at us like a little corner of the multiverse with a fishbowl upside down that was insulated in a bad way from everything else. But it makes sense what you're saying, that these things would be echoes brought to a point of extreme concentration where the universe finally said, I'm enough of this shit. We're going to take this all down to the nitty gritty, to the heaviest density and work this and get this thing done kind of thing. Do you feel like this is where we're at? Do you feel like that I almost want to say on the other side of it, because that's how I feel about 2025. It feels different. Feels like it just almost got to play out now. Free will's still here, and fear still has its way, and you never can close your eyes or close down to anything. Do you feel like that we're getting it done? Yeah.
I remember talking to you before about a big shift in 2017, which is when I saw the structure of the chakras begin to unwind.
Mm.
And then right about 2021, sort of in the maybe fourth quarter of 2020, the fall or winter of 2021, there was another big shift. And in that big shift, I think my sense is because I could always tell when there was a future me on future Earth that was taken over by artificial intelligence. And after the fall of 2021, there was no more future me that was taken over by artificial intelligence. So the reason why 200 million souls came from the future to the past was to ensure that AI didn't take over, that transhumanism did not control the future of humanity. And I think that already happened in 2021. Now, are there other stair steps? And I don't understand astrology or some of the other language that people use, and gateways and all of that. Um, I go by feeling into myself multidimensionally in the future, and what my soul says, and where I exist, and what am I doing, and what is my purpose. And my purpose significantly shifts
Mm,
from the focus of Earth to sharing this story and my experience on Earth in other galaxies
mhm,
in just a few years.
mhm.
In just a few years' time, that's my future. So the answer is yes, capital YES. Yes.
And
Yes.
you mentioned something about when you were first talking about this, and you were talking about the 250 million souls. You mentioned not just what we're doing in our awake state, but some had, you said something like some came, basically, I think you were saying to work in their dream state, they're doing stuff. And that is something that has shifted for me. And I don't know why I'm mentioning this, but I'm just curious because now that I'm thinking about it, like 2012, 13, 14, I got the Galactic War stuff. Like it was like every night. It was just like boom, boom, boom. And then it went into almost like a cosmic firefighter, you know, flying over here and fixing this hole in the fabric of the cosmos and boom, boom, shining. And then recently, I'm going to say over the last, would you say 2021? Is that what you said a
Mhm,
minute
mhm.
ago? It was around the summer or early fall of 2021. It started to become lucid dreams. And I would say probably 85, 90% people that I know and working stuff out.
Yeah.
Not like at a human level so much, but through metaphoric imagery and stuff that we're working hard. But it's all seems to, and still to this day, it all seems to be more earth based. And I don't know if that's significant, but the fact that you said fall of 21, I was like, wait a minute, because I remember that shift happening. These conversations are amazing. Thank you.
I have two major lines of thought that I don't want to forget. If I tell one story, I'm afraid I'm going to forget the other one. I've already forgotten the other one.
You'll get
Um,
it back.
the first one is I think I remember because when I came here, I incarnated throughout time, through across the whole planet, pretty much. To many of us did, many hundreds of different times. Um, I remember you being in my tribe as an Aboriginal, the Anangu, near Uluru and um, is it Crystal Springs or Alice Springs or the closest town
Alice
to
Springs. Alice
Alice
Springs.
Springs.
Yeah.
Um, I went there by myself 2 years after, in 2014. I flew to Australia by myself and then flew to Ayers Rock because I was told this is the first place I incarnated on the planet and I needed to go back and remember the truth of who I was then and remember that I could remember who I was then. And I went to Ayers Rock, and I went around the feminine, the sacred feminine ceremonial area, and I went under the rope where you're not supposed to go. And there were these rocks that were sort of like this, and thank goodness there weren't snakes or spiders. I took a towel from the hotel and I laid a towel down and I meditated, and I was taken into inner earth with these ancient founder race beings and the Anangu. And Todd, I think you were one. Like, not only
Yeah.
were you there as an Anangu, and there are like 600 or 800 different tribes. So please, I'm not trying to disrespect any tribe in
Mhm.
Australia, but this particular tribe is the one that I resonate when you were there. And also, when you say you were here from the beginning, my sense is just in talking that you are one of the founders, one of the
Mm.
founders.
I
That's
don't
just
know. I
what
don't know. I
came through.
just know that in my early years, well, first of all, I told you about the tunnels and then the people, like the inner earth people. Some people call them Agarthians. I mean, I don't know. I know what they look like, and I know, anyway. And then early on, within a couple of years, I remember getting, that's where you came from. That's where you came from, and that's where you'll end up. Not just inner earth, but in the island or the continent of Australia.
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Because I saw a movie when I was in probably like third grade back in the day when they just had the movie theater in town and you would go every weekend with your, and it was a crazy movie. It was the first time I saw nudity. It was called
Third
what?
grade?
Yeah, it was called Walkabout. And
Oh,
it was this Caucasian teenage, like 17-year-old girl. And I guess she got lost. I don't know what the story was, but she was in the outback and she's walking the outback with this aboriginal.
hmm.
And so the nakedness wasn't like, pornographic or sexual. It was just, and it struck me and I couldn't get it out of my head. But anyway, so 2013, 2014, as I'm evolving those first couple of years, I remember that. I remember saying, okay, or I remember hearing, actually, I didn't say it, I heard it. This is where you started. This is where you'll return. And then I had other dimensional experiences, like where I guess other paths or other timelines or something, where I was like in a small ship with a friend of mine and we're flying around and seeding
Hmm.
the earth in specific places that, strangely enough, some of them, like you went to Ayers Rock, were places I ended up going. And then the information would come back in, like Palo Duro Canyon in North Texas, or Northwest Texas. Yeah, so it's so interesting because one of the things that I feel like is really happening right now, it used to be something comes into your awareness, even a download, and then it would take you a little time to process it, integrate it, and then you would get then you would be, oh, okay, I got this now. For me, it feels like for instance, like right now, this is a perfect example. You're saying things and it's bringing it into my awareness, and that's it. That's the transformation right there. And not a total one, but that part of the transformation clicks, clicks, clicks. And that's a different animal than it was previous to this year, in my opinion. So the value, and look what the Aboriginals did and the indigenous. Everything, even to this day, oral history, right? Retelling. Rah, yeah. It's
And
like we
all
could,
throughout Africa. Yeah.
yeah, it's like we've come full circle.
I remember now, and thank you for reminding me because you talked about in your sleep. And this is huge and maybe complicated, and we might end up talking about it for a while. But you talked about how the nature of your experience in your sleep has changed. Some people theorize that as we evolve, and I am of the camp that I don't just believe it because somebody told me or I read it in a book because I didn't. I believe it because I know I'm capable of it. I believe that we are evolving and that we are activating the DNA that they tried so hard to shut down. And we could talk for hours about that. Um, some people theorize that the future human, and future could be 6 months from now, it could be right now, it could be 6 years from now, will be unable to distinguish their sleep time from their
Mm,
awake time.
mhm,
And so when you explain to me the nature of your nighttime experiences, what it says to me is correlating with my own personal experience and those of hundreds of my students and thousands of my clients is that we used to traverse more within the astral realm or our mental body or our mental creations within the astral realm. And so many of us who are doing the deep, deep, deep dive in healing, not just sort of everything's great, we're evolving, this is so wonderful, I'm healing and things are great. Me, it's more I'm experiencing it and witnessing that every minor little shift, and some of us are, and some aren't. Thank goodness. Some people don't have to. They can have a more lighthearted experience. Some people are having much more difficult, much more difficult experiences than we are. You and I, we went through the fire already. We got that out of the way. We had it all stripped away from us. There wasn't any ego left to attach to by the time spirit got to us. You know what I mean?
mm,
So, my experience is that I had to reconcile everything that I created in my astral body or
mm,
within my mental body, within the astral realm, in my sleep time and in my wake time because I chose that and I taught about that in my classes. Because as long as you are visited by or befriended to beings that you either created in the astral realm or you gave access to your energy field in the astral realm, you're not necessarily going to be as clear as you can be.
mhm,
And so a lot of people were completing, let's say, battles or discreating things that they created in the astral realm. And if you remember in the Robert Monroe books, he talked about when he traveled out of body, how he would go click, and now I'm in my astral body. And then he would go click, a second click. He talked about two clicks, remember?
mhm,
And the second one, that was his soul body, where he could travel to any planet, any dimension
mm,
outside the universe, outside the earth construct, outside universe, multiverse, omniverse. I don't know. I don't remember him talking about leaving the omniverse, but I certainly had that experience. And I can tell you what it looks like in the different realms. And when I know I'm leaving the planet because it looks like Machu Picchu, I mean, like I know, what my symbols are. I don't know necessarily what your symbols
mm.
are.
No, but I can back you up. Oh, well, I can tell you my experience backs that up. Like my evolution, 2011 to today, and the first because remember I said the galactic war history, the whole galactic lineage didn't come in till about 2014, late 2014. So from 2011 May till let's say 3 years, I was in the astrals.
Yes.
I was always in the astrals, and not only that, but my experiences consciously that were of psychic, phenomenal, types, including apparitions. Okay, where the five senses were involved, they were very, very much connected to the astral,
Yes.
and that would include, for instance, and I love the way you explain that. I never thought about that, but I had an experience in the astral in dream state over like one of those repetitive dreams, right, that always comes back to the same places. And then I'm in my bedroom of the townhouse where the original studio was, and it was actually the last time anything like this ever happened. It might have been at the very tail end of my astral evolution or whatever. This I was in my bedroom upstairs, and this huge entity came in, and it stunk. Like, it was stunk bad. I could see it, you know. It wasn't a hologram. It wasn't physical, but I could definitely see it third eye, and I could see the mass of it.
Yeah.
And my back was to him. And I said, and I guess, I could see him, and I said, You're not you're not allowed here. And I'm gonna turn around and you're gonna leave. and he said, "You're the one that brought me here, right?" And then I turn around, the smell leaves, and that was the end of that. So that was an astral,
Mhm.
that was a thread to the astral.
Yeah.
But I do distinctly remember my experiences in dream state shifted at that point. It was almost like I had to uh, detach myself, free myself from that astral zone around the earth, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Because what we're doing is we're experiencing, this is my language for it, resolution and reconciliation of distortions
Mm,
so that we can then integrate with all the other frequency or so-called higher aspects of self or the sphere within the sphere or whatever your language is. We had to resolve the mental creations, the thought forms, the egregores. Now, I'm not saying thought forms and egregores exist solely in the astral because they're right here. And I can hear them walking down the street and they'll be on people and they'll be saying nasty things to me. Some of us are way more clairaudient than we need to be, or, clairvoyant or what have you. And I certainly have always been more than I ever needed or wanted. Um, and it's can be triggering for people when you try to help them understand if you can only clear up your mental body and your thought creations and well, I studied this or I do this or I'm clear and I've done my healing, and it's like, but there's a whole other level, there's a whole other frequency band of energy to be cleared if you want to remember where you came from, if you want to achieve resolution and reconciliation so that you can begin the path of integration and realigning to truly remember the truth of who you are. And that is when the human, the evolved human with that has 12 or I think it's 13 strands of DNA, you begin to work with that sixth strand of DNA that says you actually can heal yourself. But up until the sixth strand, there's no line of code. And I can read the DNA, all the so called non coding codons. Oh no, they're coding. They're coding your consciousness,
hmm
they're coding your template
hmm
as to what is possible and what is not possible.
hmm hmm
And so all of the codes, the lines of codes and instructions is all the distortion that we believe. This life is only physical. You can only heal through an ascended master. I mean, 150 or, 1,000 of these lines of code in our DNA that basically say there is no mechanism for divine confluence. You cannot be aligned with your creator source. And when you find that line of code and you just look at it and you say, that's not true, I can be aligned. You can remember. Then we start the self healing, and oh, it just goes on and on and on.
mm, yeah, yeah. I really agree with that a lot. Um, totally. Um, because I remember, God, this is so crazy. This conversation is crazy for me. Um, that first 3 years, I said astral, right? And
Yeah.
then 2014, it started with the education or the remembrance of the galactic wars, and then, like I was telling you, and then it was 2 years into that, and it was actually a Lionsgate. So it was Lionsgate 2016, which would be a month before I would take on this, grab my suitcase and just fall, do what I did for so many years, hobo around and do Soulogy. And what happened was all these entities came into the studio. There was 23 of them. So they were like, it was the first time I ever saw Merlin's consciousness. And he was the point person that night. But it was like Yeshua, Magdalene, it was Jermaine, it was Amazon, Hathors. There was even a reptilian who was kind of the odd one out. It was interesting. But that night, because you were talking about, I was seeing like the rings, like Atlantis, like the concentric circles, a circle beyond and a circle around it and a circle around it. And they said at that point, and I don't remember what dimension or what the threshold I was crossing was, but it was definitely like like in the spirit of another timeline or another dimension. It was also preparation because I didn't even know I was leaving to go on the road. And they told me, they said, you now have three rings around you. You've crossed, you now have your third ring. And always remember that your fortification of these rings, you've earned them like stripes, but they're only as strong as your faith in them.
Mhm.
And that always stuck with me. And I said, what do you mean? Like I'm always on my own? No, we're with you. And you can tap into our power, so to speak, which ultimately is me, that it's both, right? And they said, but it's going to be subjected to the level of faith that you have. It's going to be proportionate to the level of faith you have. And that what you just said to me, again, as you see the individual's journey, you can kind of see the whole collective thing. So the way you're explaining things is it's connecting a lot of dots for me. And that, I think that's how this happens, one by one. Well, one plus one or two by two, or however you want to put it. I think this is very important, these types of conversations. I don't know, and it doesn't matter, but I really feel like this is the right track of dialogue, these kind of conversations where you're not worried about the views, you're not worried about donations, you're not worried about likes. It's just get this out in the field. And the thing about the cat, to me, that says it all because as soon as it's verbalized with all the frequencies available in this particular realm, it's clear because it's truth.
And I wanted to say that about the Aldebarans because of the cat,
Mm,
because it was the cat that told me that. It wasn't my soul, that it wasn't my opinion, it wasn't
mm,
my belief, it wasn't some channeled information. A cat told me.
mm,
An Aldebaran soul told me. We didn't all, why are we all being blamed? You know,
mm. Yeah.
I would like to offer another word for both of us, you and me. I don't
Mm,
think you need to hear this, to be honest,
mm,
because you embody this more than almost anybody I've ever met. As opposed to faith,
mm.
there is a word that is so powerful, and it is certainty.
Certainty.
Your certainty of who you are.
Mm,
Faith maybe for me
mm,
implies, for me, it has implied in something other than. And my certainty is in my own being. So my sense of what they were saying to you is these rings are only as strong as you have faith in them, or you have certainty that
yeah.
they are you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny you say that because I started doing those spirit walks again, like when I started Soulogy. And I think it was the last one I did 3 or 4 days ago. And I said, oh, let me capture it. I'd never said anything like this before because faith to me was shown to me in those early days, the transitive verb to trust and believe. But you're right, because they said there's always going to be this 10% you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So in the transmission 3 or 4 days ago, I was talking about what was coming in, and I said, faith is a very big word for me, but this isn't faith. This is knowing. And so
Certainty.
there's that certainty. And I feel like that was, indicative of what we're coming into because it can't just be me. There's no way, and I can see it in other people. I could see it in him. I could see it in the lady yesterday. I could see it in you, obviously. I know you, but still, you're not who you were.
No.
You're not, it's not even close.
Mhm.
If you started to sprout angel wings or, ET ears or something, I wouldn't be surprised, you know? And here's another thing, and I don't know that this is relevant or not. I ended up in this place. And I'm blessed to be here and a wonderful owner. I'm house sitting and pet sitting. And it kind of just was a fluke thing, right? And so I found myself here and there's two cats. Okay. And on June the 1st, 14 years after I started this, after it all started for me, I have this stuff happen. Starting with a portal blowing up outside of my window, a big orange portal exploded in the sky at 12:01 on June the 1st. Right? I kid you not. So over that first 2 or 3 days after that, and I've always had a connection with animals. They love me. They just like come to me like babies. But I've never been, I wouldn't consider myself an animal whisperer. But do you know one of them's a female and one of them's a male? And that these two cats started talking to me. And the cat, and this is what reminded me of it when you said it was not how you're describing the soul of that cat. The female cat here has been talking to me not as an individual soul, but as the feminine consciousness.
Mm.
And I'm telling you, there's been at least 3 occasions where I'll be thinking to myself about something personal, even, right? And then boom, come in and give me the dope. And I'm going, wow. So now I'm wondering what planet they're from.
Yeah. I mean, it's not an everyday occurrence. Yeah, it's a small percentage of my clients that are cats, and I'm working much more with humans now than I am
Mm.
animals. But animals was kind of my placeholder and place of recognition where I became well known so that I could then move into while I was doing my healing, you know,
Dude,
my,
that's another thing. That's another thing I notice about the energy that you carry. And you had said to me, "Oh, I'm one of your favorites." I'm like, "Yeah, you're one of my favorites to have on the show." And you're like, "Well, you've had so many people." And I told you what I told you. But the other thing is, you like I've known you for what, 8 years or something. I don't even know. But like, you never flatline. You're always changing. Evolving is the right word. Evolving, that's the right word. And I feel like that is a very important attribute to be embodied, to be emitting as a resonance, even if you don't talk to people. That energy I feel like is so important because it goes along with the spontaneity and the intuition and the creativity and the imagination, which is kind of what you brought up about the history when you were talking about Aldebaran, the constrictions that were put upon. That's the first thing I thought. Oh, they took away their imagination. Fuck this. I don't want to live here. But yeah, so I feel like that's another thing that we're seeing more of with souls incarnated.
Todd, I didn't have a choice.
I
I mean,
know.
it's not like I was some, super smart person or who knew where I was going or anything. I mean, I did. I was, stumbling down the lane and falling in ditches.
Your story, I mean, really, anyone that's listened to this, it comes back and listen to it. You should go listen to the very first one we did. And I've obviously talked, 4,000 plus shows. I've talked to a lot of people and I've heard some, just man. I mean, I was homeless for 2 years and I never felt like I suffered like most people, but not till doing this show and hearing people's stories. I'm like, holy crap, I don't even know if I could have done it. I mean, I'm sure I would have, but some of the, like what you've gone through and a few people that I know like you, it's like, I mean, especially when you talk about it, you're not like stuck in it. You're laughing about it. I don't know. It's just a powerful, powerful thing. And I think it represents maybe our lives, maybe this summary life. That's what I look at it like, a summary life of all the lives reflects our soul, I guess is what I'm saying. Um, I don't know. But, I really feel like that it would be, I don't even feel like we've got in too deep here today. Like I feel like there's so much more to be had here from your openness and your retelling. And I am inviting you if you would like to come back, in 2 or 3 weeks and do this again and just pick up where we left off because I really feel like that you know, and also Gareth and a few others that are starting to step up like this. There's something different about this energy, this dialogue, and the delivery that than the before. And maybe it's just reflective of the change or the threshold that we've all crossed, but I feel like it's very important, just like the cat. That cat voiced what it voiced, and then everything was brought into alignment, something like that. Or you're speaking, and I'm getting a tone, and I'm speaking, and you're getting your confirmation. Like truth frequency is a real thing. It really is. So, yeah, I'd love to have you come back, and I'll reach out to you and bug you and see if you'll do it.
I mean, I've never had my soul put her finger on
Mm,
my mouth before. So there was something very special about
yeah. Yeah.
being able to speak this, even if you, even like you say, three people watch or whatever,
Yeah.
it's in the collective consciousness. And it's something that I've been hesitant to talk about because, there's just so much angst right now. And, a lot of, my story's true and my story's true. No, my story's true, and one thing I want to say about that is nobody can vote you off your island. Nobody, nobody has that power to say to you, Todd, your experience isn't valuable or valid,
Right.
you know, or
Right.
or it isn't true. I think
Yeah.
that's something I think we're kind of forgetting or missing, and whatever part of me that just didn't want to be attacked or didn't want to, enter into that arena. I've been working on healing that part for a couple of years so that we could talk like this.
Yeah. Yeah. I find myself in the last God, I can't remember what it is now, like 3 days. What's today? Tuesday, Wednesday? What's today? Wednesday. So I think this started on either Sunday or Monday. And I've had several things happen, and I've learned now this go around to keep everything private until to protect it. I've never been a big person on protection because I feel like my field will protect me, but there's something about not verbalizing the creation, the reformation or the coming out of whatever's the universe is giving me to go do now. Like it's expanding, like what's happened with you. But there's been a growing feeling. It feels like it did 14 years ago. I used to say in my writings back then from the streets, it was above biblical. Obviously, the paranormal stuff was off. You know what I mean, out of the ordinary. But it was a feeling, and this is how I'm feeling now. Like tears are coming to my eyes. I want to, metaphorically kneel in devotion. I'm constantly getting these waves of gratitude and stop in my breathing, and my heart will palpitate. So I really feel like that we're on to something here, and especially heading into September. And I'm like you, I'm not one of those experts on anything, but I look at it and go, well, you're going to have a 999 day. You're going to have an equinox. You got two eclipses. And I remember being told back early part of the year that this quadrant between March and September equinoxes was going to be hot and heavy. Burn, baby, burn, purification. So, and I don't know about you, but it's been that way for me. And I'm just really starting to come out of come out, these last, I'd say probably a week, really, maybe 2 weeks.
I call what you're referring to as crying from behind my eyes,
Yeah.
where I'm crying, but it's my soul expressing what she's experiencing,
Yeah.
what I'm about to experience, and I'm not consciously aware of it yet, and she sees it coming. And
Yeah.
some of it is happy tears, and some of it is a little sadness.
Yeah. Bittersweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's funny too because like getting ready, I had a show yesterday morning, and then I had Gareth come on later, and I went to the store in this beautiful little Mexican town and walk over there, and I'm walking back. It's about 45 minutes before the show, and all of a sudden I felt him. I never met this guy. He reached out to me, sent me an email. I don't even know what he's going to talk about. He said ET contactee, but I've talked to a lot of people, but their stories weren't like this guy's. Okay.
Mm.
And so, but I hadn't met him yet, and I felt him come in. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? You know? And so I sit down and talk to him, and I think this was before we started recording, and he says, yeah, I'm connected to the Arcturians. And about half an hour ago, they came in and they're like super excited that I'm doing this thing because he hadn't come out before.
Hmm.
And then I got the same thing with you even prior before we actually were able to pull it together because you sent me the note and I kept thinking, I think, you know what, I'm gonna get back into this and start getting them, like two a day, three a day, and I'm gonna call her because I know there'll be some, I just felt it. And then the next thing I know, you message me. I'm like, oh my God. But see, these things are happening more and more and more.
Mm.
And if that's what's happening now, what's it going to look like in a month or 2 months or 3 months?
Mhm.
Like this above telepathy thing is real. It's real. It's like we won't be able to, there won't be anything such as a lie. Everything will be seen for what it is.
Yeah,
And that's not a bad thing. That's actually that talk about relieving the nervous system.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You know?
Well, eventually our mirror neurons will not function the same way. We will not take on the trauma we witness as our own in our physical body
Yeah.
as our DNA activates.
Yeah.
And something my soul wanted me to say that I was remiss in not saying, I didn't go, I think, far enough with the dream time. I'm sorry, what we used to call dreaming or as we're sleeping.
Mm.
Because remember, I said some people theorize that in the future, people will find it hard to distinguish their sleeping time from their awake time. And so, what my soul is asking me to please add in there is to encourage people no longer to wake up in the morning and say, I had a dream. I had a soul experience. My soul communicated with me. I experienced myself living another life multidimensionally on another planet. Or my soul is showing me maybe what it's like to be some part of me that made a choice to participate in something on some story on earth that was playing out that is no longer relevant for me and I have to let that go. And it looked, I'll just give one quick example. A client the other night told a story in a class last week, and she said, I had this dream and there was a baby wearing a yellow raincoat and then there was a bunch of weird stuff going on that didn't make any sense. And I said, were you ever baptized? And she said, yes. And I said, how old were you? She says, about as old as the baby. I said, I think the baby was you when you were baptized, and the yellow raincoat was the baby didn't want. And I said, well, how did you get baptized? Why does the baby feel? And she says, oh, my aunt just took me and put me in the bath and dunked me in the bath. So the baby was upset about that, impromptu, ad hoc sort of baptism and had a yellow raincoat to symbolize that. But anyway, I said, you see, this is not a dream. This is your soul and your subconscious mind showing
Mm.
you that you need to resolve, that it would be optimal. We don't really need to, I guess, do anything, that
Mm.
it would be optimal to resolve this event in your life.
Mm. Mm.
And so the further we go down the road, the moment we close our eyes, for me, I'm just awake again, doing whatever I'm doing, going wherever I'm going. And from 21, like mid 2021 to mid 2023, I was going to these different groups of races of other beings who had little respect for Earth, and I was defending humanity.
Mm.
For 2 years, every night I was talking in smallish groups of extraterrestrial beings, explaining the layers of mind control and the layers of belief systems that were
Mm.
projected on us and the layers of things we were tricked into choosing, not knowing there were other choices available. Because from the outside, it just looks like we're just a bunch of traumatized, people who kill each other and have no
Mm.
problem with it, you know.
That
And
resonates.
so I wasn't alone. It was a group of 6 people that I traveled with, and the 6 people all gave their different perspective. And actually, they had like one man I met in this life. was from Hawaii, and he used to have a Qigong school. And one man lived in, I met all these people in real life. I met all of them except one. And one of them, one of the ladies I know, the other lady is her friend. I just never met her. So four of the five other people that were with me, I met in this life. And one of them, somebody I know knows.
Wow. That's like,
And they all know that it's true.
yeah, that's like
It's amazing.
the monad physicalizing or soul family physicalizing. And Gareth's story is like that.
Yeah.
Gareth was he's from Australia. He was born in England, then went to Australia. I think he was a teenager or something. And then, the stuff starts happening. You need to go to England. Oh,
Mhm.
okay. You need to buy a one-way ticket to England, which he could because he was a citizen, dual citizen. And you need to go to this bookstore. He walks up to the bookstore. There's a guy outside smoking a cigarette. He said, "You read that book, didn't you?" And the
Yeah.
guy says, and Gareth says, "How do you know that?" And then they meet another one. So there's him and three other people that start meeting together, almost like the Law of One sessions, the raw sessions. But and I was like, wow, that's wild. To actually have these connections in the physical, and it's more than one person. So you met five, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, we should. We're up on 2 hours. We should. I'm gonna reach out to you and see if we can get coerce you back over here. One of the things I like to talk about the next time we have the privilege of you sitting with us is I'm just curious, like how your sessions work. I know there's lots of different ways and everything, and I know yours has evolved and changed a lot. I'm just curious, it's just my childlike wonder. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I just want to say again, and for everybody. Her family's had a loved one having some health issues, so just join me in the circle of life for just one moment. We put the family in the center, and the rings around us, the circles of life around us, our family, soul family, monad, angels, guides, in this eternal moment. Uh, we project from our hearts healing, peace, love, and comfort, blessings of grace to the family member and to Jenny's family in love and light, in love and light, and love and light. Thank you. And thank you for coming in. I love you and I look forward to seeing you again. It was great. And I feel very expanded. And I have a feeling I'm going to probably be flat on my back here in a couple hours when the energy hits me. If it does, I don't know. Take care. Peace
Bye
out.
bye.